Well, hello, SMP Nation, and let's go sew stitchers. Happy Tuesday, everyone. So good to see so many of you pouring in today. Ooh, the sun is shining where I am. I hope it's shining where you are. But if you saw the that picture, that was just a few days ago. We had snow piled up to halfway up me practically, but it's pretty much all melted now and the sun is shining. So like I said, I hope the sun is shining where you are, but I like to say the sun is always shining in the sewing space. Speaking of sunshine, let me get just a little bit more light on there today. So yeah, hey everybody, I see so many of you. Oh, so many friends. Sandra's here from Wyoming. Linda's here. Me's here. My friend Kathy Huffman's here. She's a local friend, so I get to see her on a regular basis. Nana's here. Diana. Let's see, Barb. Oh, so many of you coming in. So great to see you. I'm really happy to be here again for Takeover Tuesday. As I was preparing for this, I started getting like a million ideas. Yeah, there's the snow. That was the view out the back of my window in my sewing space. Like I said, just not too many days ago, but how soon we forget. As soon as it's gone, you kind of get you get over it really quick until the next one comes. But that's the way it is in my locale. So again, sun shining in some of those places. Great. I'm glad to see that. All right. Guess what the topic is today? It is sensational scarves. Now, I'd love to know in the chat, is anybody else here consider themselves a scarf fanatic or a scarf enthusiast, whether you just like to buy them, make them, wear them. Scarves, I love scarves. They finish off an outfit. They tie a color scheme together. They keep the chill off your neck. I know some of you are in warm places, and I'm happy for you. Don't start giving me the temperature. I don't want to hear it, but yes, if you're a scarf enthusiast, please let me know. And do you make scarves? Have you made scarves? For a long time, I only wore scarves when I had to, because they kept me warm, and my mom said, don't leave the house without your scarf. Anybody have a mom that said that? But then I just, I started playing around with embellishing them, and I really turned into what I consider you're going to see in a minute, a pashmina mania, pashmina maniac. But today's scarf is a really fun little decorative one. So I'm going to show you a few samples today with some pictures and hopefully inspire you on embroidering or sewing or serging, because I've got a whole batch of pictures of scarves that I did a little bit of everything on, including all of those things that I just said. But this one for today is purely for fun, for sure, and it makes a fabulous last minute gift. So again, anybody in here, oh, it's Nana says she's never learned how to wear a scarf. Yeah, that could be an issue. But I tell you what, a quick search on the internet, there's the scarf experts are out there, and the thing is, you have to almost like practice it and see the ways that you like to wrap it and wear it, and then practice that so that you get it down pat. I've got a couple that I can't do without looking at instructions. But the simplest way in my book to wear a scarf is to have a scarf that's about 60 to 70 inches long. And let's talk about that measurement just for a minute, because if you are a little bit on the shorter stature, you may prefer a shorter scarf. There's nothing worse than having either a garment or an accessory on that overwhelms you personally. If you're taller, you might really enjoy wearing longer scarves, but in a range of about 60 to 70 inches is usually what I like to stick to. Now, this one is going to a friend who makes me feel tall, and I'm only like 5'3.5". So that's saying something. So she wears these colors. She's, definitely a lot shorter than I am, and I think she will really enjoy this. But let's just talk about wearability for a minute. Now, if you've got a narrow scarf or skinny scarf like this one, I think one of the easiest ways to wear it is just to take it, fold it in half, put it around your neck backwards, and then sweep it back to the front and adjust however much you want that to be, either filling in your neck or draping down a little bit below your neckline. But tell me in the comments if you like just that whole look of this, just being kind of, a little bit drapey. And let me move it a little bit closer. You can get a little bit closer look at that. And we are going to make this today. So this is just a simple knit, and I'll show you the supplies in a couple minutes here, but it's all left raw. So again, very, very quick, very, very easy. It's probably going to take you longer to shop for the fabric and cut it out than it is to actually make it. So good. I got some great comments. Norma loves scarves. She has a drawer full of them in all sizes. Yeah. Norma, I think one of the keys to actually wearing your scarves is having them easy access. So if you've got them all folded up in a drawer and they're going to be all wrinkled when it's time to start wearing them, you're probably going to just skip it and leave without it. So I have a little pull-out rack in my closet that my scarves that are small enough hang on. And then I hang the other ones just on hangers mixed in with my clothes. No, my closet's not all that organized. I keep saying that one of these days I'm going to go around and do it by, color and wearability. So everything that's together stays together, but that's a someday project. And I don't know if someday we'll ever come on that, but yeah, this one is really fun and very, very, very easy to make. So let me pull up the pictures of some other scarves and show you those. So we just got to get that one going up here. And as soon as that one's up on the screen, I can start to tell you about each and every one of those. Now, they are from my book called Wrapped in Embroidery. So Wrapped in Embroidery is a book that I wrote a while back. I will show you this one on the table in a couple minutes, but for now we'll just go ahead and concentrate on those pictures, because it's going to tell the story a little bit better. So yes, I consider myself a little bit of a pashmina maniac, and it's all because I just started playing around with how could I embroider them and make them look as pretty on the right side as they are on the wrong side. So Obviously, we don't have time to do every scarf in detail today. So a lot of this is just going to be to inspire you. And I do have an offer for you today for purchasing the book if you're interested. The book has all the instructions detailed step by step for 9 machine embroidered wraps and scarves. There's a combination, and you only need basic sewing machine stitches, and you only need an embroidery machine with a 5x7 hoop. You don't need anything fancy. I show you in the book how to lay out the designs and link the designs no matter what machine you have. So no worries on that. But what I found that I really enjoyed doing was combining silky fabrics like silk du peony or crepeback satin, which is a very drapey, silky fabric, and using that as my base for the embroidery, and then adding it to the scarf by literally top stitching it on. So again, nothing more than a straight stitch, but in most cases I covered the raw edge of that silky piece of fabric or chunk of fabric. You can see that in the lower corner where I've got multiple pieces cut out. And I just simply covered that with ribbon and top stitched over it. So on the back side of that scarf, you see nothing but a straight line of stitches. And that's ideal for scarves because the whole thing about a scarf is that you're wrapping it around and it's going to flip and flop while it's on you, right? It's going to just move around. Thank you for the compliment. Crafting on a dime with Shay Shay likes the third scarf. Okay, third scarf, that's the rusty colored one or the other one. Not sure which one you mean. Let me know in the chat. So yeah, the middle one is one of my favorites. That's the creamy one where I used crepeback satin. So I haven't experimented with a whole lot of other fabrics other than silk du peony and crepeback satin, but I picked those two extremes because silk du peony, which the two on the ends are embroidered on, is what I consider kind of a luxury fabric. And I even tell you how to wash your silk du peony in the book. There's some tips for that. But when you want to find something readily or be a little bit more economical, then I recommend looking for crepe backed satin. You find that in the area where the bridle area is. And it's comes in lots of colors, and it's very reasonably priced, so easy to find. And so yeah, Janice is saying the copper one on the right looks like a shawl. All of these can be worn as a shawl or as a scarf. So to wear them as a scarf, you just simply fold them in half or fold them in thirds, and you can wear them the exact same way that I showed the one on the mannequin here that is much smaller in size. So let's take a closer look at a few more that are in the book. The next one you're going to see is my silver and black scarf. So this is probably the most elegant one that I've made. This is the one that, looks great with a little black dress, but it looks just as chic and just as nice if you're wearing black jeans and a turtleneck or whatever. And that one again is just looped around, and the tail ends go through, and very easy to wear. It also, like I said, doubles as a shawl, and I've worn it wrapped around and just tied in a knot on the front. So you can see that it's done with a border design in the book. The designs were actually created for the particular wraps. Obviously, they will work on many other things, but you can see that I used lighter weight designs when I was working with lighter weight fabric. So let's take a look at the next one. The next one is that copper colored one with the navy. So again, looks great with jeans, looks just as good when you're dressing up. And on this one, I did something to kind of fool the eye a little bit. I embroidered all of those individual motifs on a big rectangle of silk du peony. And then I simply took a narrow silk ribbon, and silk ribbon is the key here. You're going to catch that in the next one that I show. But the silk ribbon is flexible and soft, just like the pashmina scarf, the blank pashmina scarf, and just like the silk du peony after it's been washed. So just by adding that trim, it made it look that it was done in pieces and then pieced together. So just a little bit of an illusion of the eye. So let's take a look at the next one here. And the next one is the one, let me go back here. The next one is the florals and ribbon, and that one is on the crepe back satin. That one is done with a really clever pretzel type tying, and you can find that online if you search for how to tie pashmina scarves. There's lots and lots and lots out there. Now let me talk just a little bit about what is a pashmina. Well, that term gets thrown around a lot. For a lot of people, it just means a big, soft, drapey scarf. In real terms, most of the time, pashmina was either silk or a very lightweight wool. And I do have resources in the book for where I got these from. These were real, like the real McCoy pashminas. Hey, Power Tools with Thread. Great to have you here today. We're all enjoying your Tuesday shows as well. So glad to have you here, Becky. So this one, again, made on just decorating a plain pashmina. I have since switched to pashminas that are they're kind of like a faux pashmina. They're made out of an acrylic or an acrylic blend. And again, I'll give you a resource list for all of this after we're all done here. But that's kind of taken the place of buying the more expensive ones. And they're very, again, readily available, come in lots of colors, very inexpensive, and they make up just as beautifully as the real pashminas do. Okay, so now this one's a little different. This is done with a fabric that is actually a blend of cotton and silk. And again, it's just a scarf. It can be folded into thirds and tied around the neck, or it can be worn as a shawl. But it's just showing the fact that you don't have to, buy a pashmina. You can actually make your own, and by piecing it together, you can color block it. By the way, when you see this flat in the book, it looks just as pretty as a table runner. So crazy idea, but all of these designs work beautifully on home decor projects. They work great on quilts. They're just very classic, very elegant designs that look good on just about everything you choose to embroider them on. Okay, so the next one's another, just a little twist on something different. This one is made out of a dress weight suede. So how do you know suede is dress weight? Well, if you can scrunch it up in your hand and it turns into something smushable and small and thinner instead of being bulky and bouncy, then I would say it's dress weight. This can be done on other fabrics as well, lightweight wools, but the key to this one is covered buttons and hidden buttonholes. So where you see that button right at the waistline, that's actually going through a buttonhole. And with those extra buttons up on top, it allows you to wear this scarf in many different ways. So like a scarf, like a wrap, kind of the cross between the two. Thank you, Kathy, for saying they're all beautiful and you love pashminas for airplane travel. Yeah, thanks for saying that, because you know what? It gives me a little thing to remember to tell you. If you buy pashminas in the airport, they're the cheapy ones because they expect people to make an impulse buy. They got to the airport, they didn't realize how cold it was inside or how cold it was going to be where they were going. So they grabbed one of those. If you've ever had one and you bought in an airport, unless it was from a boutique shop, you probably know that they're a little bit on the wimpy side, and they don't hold up really well. So if you're going to put any time into this, you definitely want to have quality materials or a quality pashmina. And that, again, doesn't mean you have to pay a lot for it. All right, so here's the book. Again, I'm just kind of highlighting a few things from the book today. I know I've seen some of you in the chat already have it. It's been out for a while. It's a product that you can purchase from Sewing Machines Plus. However, and you probably heard Blaine mention it multiple times, we're going to do something just a little bit different today. Again, there are 7 wrap projects right in the book, 2 bonus projects. So there were 2 additional full projects that couldn't fit in the pages of the book. So they're on a CD-ROM along with 16 designs on that same CD-ROM, and all the designs fit a 5x7 hoop. If you purchase this today through SewingMachinesPlus.com, I will autograph your copy and it will be shipped directly to you. So you can order that whenever you choose. And if you do that with the special today, then I will autograph it for you. Okay. All right. Let's see. What do we got next here? I think Sewing Machines Plus had their own slide for all of that. And let's see. I wanted to show you just a image. There you go. There's the phone number. There's the pricing. Regular price is $40, and it's really on sale for a really good price at $29.99 for all the projects and all the designs included there. So if you're interested, go right ahead and get that ordered up. All right, let's take a look at just a brief little picture here of the designs. These are all in the book, and I even when I had these designs digitized, I collected all the images, determined all the ways they were going to be used, but they were professionally digitized. The book is published by Designs in Machine Embroidery. I see some of you are going to go look for your book now because it has been out for a while. It is not brand new, but it's a classic. And these wraps are everywhere. If you look at catalogs or you shop, I've seen them in everything from my garden center gift shop to high-end boutique stores and all the name brand places as well. You will find items that are similar to this. But here you go. I've already even mirror imaged the designs, again, thinking that some people might have machines that don't have all of those bells and whistles. You don't need to do anything other than transfer it from the CD to your machine and be able to use all of these. All right, so are we ready to head over to my table and get started on this beautiful scarf project I have for you today? Let me go ahead and switch myself over here because there's things that I need to show you there instead of here. Okay, yeah, you can see all my notes. All right, so let's start with supplies. What do we need for supplies? We want to start with 3/8 of a yard. I'm going to tilt my screen so I can see this just a little bit better. We want to start with 3/8 of a yard of a nice, soft knit. So it can be anywhere from a light to a medium weight. Mine is relatively lightweight. Yes, you can see I'm still wearing my Band-Aid from embroidering my finger. We won't go into that story again, but I've got a few sewing Band-Aids that a friend gave to me. So I thought it would be fun to wear a sewing Band-Aid today. So here we go. Here's the knit. Again, let's define drape. Drape means you can hold that fabric in your hand and you can, I can't think of a better word to use than smushing, but when you smush it, you kind of, squeeze it with your hands. It becomes very narrow and very small. If this was a piece of denim, and denim that is, pant weight denim or work weight denim, it would not be smushable. It would stay stiff. So that defines something that doesn't have drape. This defines something that does have drape. And then I went ahead and picked 2 complementary colors. So I've got this beautiful kind of rusty color, and then I've got this peach. Again, they don't have to be identical. You can even cut up t-shirts if you want to, but you want to go with a knit that is light to medium and looks good on both sides. This one's a little darker on the wrong side than it is on the right side, but it's still just as pretty. And that just adds a little bit more interest and a little bit more contrast. So if you have, if you get, 3/8 of a yard of fabric, you're going to actually be able to cut 19 to 20 squares. Now, why is there a little bit of a variable in there? Well, when we buy fabric, we all know what happens when it's cut sometimes. It gets cut cockeyed and crooked. So always buy a little bit extra. I like to pre-wash mine first. For one thing, you're never sure if the color is going to run. I like to use those color catchers that you find at the, in the laundry. I add that every time I wash new fabric, because if the color catcher is absorbing color, then I know that the fabric is leaking color a little bit, and I can then judge, how that's going to work. Another way to do it would be hand washing it so that you can see how the water turns out. If you rinse it a couple times and the water runs clear, then you probably don't have any worries about anything, with dye transfer or anything like that. But most of the time, if you're going with complementary colors, they're going to be pretty close color family, and you're not going to have an issue there. So like I said, this could even be done from something that you recycle. T-shirts, even sweatshirt knits would be fine. And you could do multiple colors. You can make this as kind of eclectic as you want. It doesn't have to be really, really neat. So when we cut this, we need a rotary cutter mat, a rotary cutting ruler, and a rotary cutter. I don't have my rotary cutter here with me. I'm not going to actually cut this, but what I want you to see is that I chose a ruler that is 6 inches wide, exactly 6 inches wide, and 24 inches long. That means that out of that 3/8 of a yard, I can cut 2 strips along the crosswise grain. So from the fold to the selvage would be the crosswise grain, and cutting it exactly 6 inches wide. Once I've cut that strip, I can flip my ruler, which is 6 inches, of course, and then I can cut squares. So I just go lengthwise first and then crosswise second. So I can do 2 lengthwise strips on that piece of fabric, and I've got plenty of squares then to make 2 scarves. Unless I want to make them really extra long, then I can, just make extra squares. But pretty economical to get this out of 3/8 of a yard of 2 different fabrics. That is not going to set you back much. All right, so once we've got those squares cut, again, they are 6 inches. So you can see I've got my, you know what? I cut these just a teeny bit smaller. So pardon me for that. My actual squares on my scarf are exactly 6 inches, but I had a few leftover pieces. So I did cut some just a little bit smaller, which you could, and you could actually cut them a little bit bigger. I just love using this ruler, 6 by 24. Make sure it's exactly 6, because I do have a 24-inch rotary cutting ruler that is 6.5, and that's fine if you cut everything 6.5 by 6.5, but you need as perfect of a square as you can get. Now, once you handle this fabric, it's going to start to get a little bit funny. So just don't worry about it. One of my favorite sayings you've probably heard me say before is, this is not a wedding dress. It's just a scarf. So don't fuss too much over it. This is not a you have to be perfect type project. So once we've got our pieces cut, I'm going to go with 7 to 9 of fabric number 1 and 6 to 8 of fabric number 2. You're going to want usually to put the same color on each end. So if that makes it a little bit longer, let me pull my scarf over here for a minute so that you can see what I did. So I have, just so that everything, when I'm done, kind of looks symmetrical, both ends of the scarf end with that same color. So don't fuss too much over this, but if you're kind of one of those even Steven types and you like things even Steven, then go ahead and make sure that you've got the 2 on the end, even if you have to add another one and have an odd number. So no biggie on that. All right, so once we've cut those squares, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to mark them. So we're going to mark each and every individual square that we have cut. So far, so good. I see Kathy Ann says she has scraps at home. Yeah. Who saves their scraps? It becomes like an obsession. It's so hard to throw anything away because you never know when you might need it. And yeah, Ginny says sometimes cheap fabric behaves worse than necessary. Yeah. And you know what? For this, you really don't need expensive fabric because it's just a scarf. I wouldn't worry about it. If it's soft and fluffy, that's okay. It's just going to add more character to this. So no worries on that. And if you do have questions, I can't see everything while I'm going through. So if you need to, we'll catch up on questions at the end. And April is here from Australia. So April, you are very typical of what I mentioned earlier, which is you are currently, I think you're still warm there. Let me know if the season's changed for you at all, but it's always the opposite of what you think there. All right, so let's go on to the next step. The next step is going to be to mark each square on the diagonal. So I'm going to turn it on point, and let's talk a little bit about markers. We all have our favorites. I would say that the ones I use most often are the purple air soluble, the blue water soluble, and you can buy both of these pens either mixed with one on one end and one on the other, or separately. And then my next favorite is the one that I use for this project, and that is called a ChalkoLiner. And a ChalkoLiner is really just a must-have. Check out SewingMachinesPlus.com. Look for the notions there. This is ideal because I can run it right next to a rotary cutting ruler, which you'll see in a minute. But let's talk for just a minute about markers, because the one that I didn't bring over here that I know is popular, and I do use it on occasion, is the heat away markers. And here's my big tip of the day on markers. It's always best to test. Many of you have heard me say that more than once, and I am never going to quit saying it because it is absolutely, the other saying is there are those who test and there are those that wish they would have. So with a marker, I want to know if this is going to be ironed. Is the mark going to be made permanent from the ironing or partially permanent? And is this going to wash out? So those are my tests. If I'm going to wash the item, I want to make sure that that mark is thoroughly removed. And what a lot of people, I think, don't realize, because the instructions on these don't necessarily give you all the details, but whether you're using a purple marker or a blue marker, both of those are designed to disappear. And the best way to make them disappear is to put them in water. Obviously, the purple will disappear with air. However, that doesn't mean the chemical is gone. So if you're just dabbing it or the air is taking that away, you want to make sure then that you wash it in detergent to remove all the chemical in the fabric so that it never comes back. So that's why I'm a little shy of the Frixion markers. I tend to only use them when the marking will be covered up by something else and will never show, because there have been incidences of that marking coming back or coming back partially. So if you have a favorite marker, feel free to let me know. But I'm in love with this one in particular. So let's see how we mark these. We're just going to take that ruler and we're going to go from point to point. Now realize that your ruler has just a little bit of width to it, so you want to go just a little shy of that. But again, don't worry about being too perfect. And I have found that this is so ideal because what it does is it runs right next to the ruler, and the tip is thin enough that it works really a lot like a pen. Yes, I could use this pen. There we go. I got the blue marking with the pen, and that works. But they all have to be washed out, and I just like the way this chalk one works. I have never had it leave residue on a washable fabric. So let me just give you another little tip on this. These work best if you don't rub them like a pencil or a pen. If you go all in one sweeping direction. Okay, because you see already I'm a little off there. That's because I'm working with a camera in front of me. Okay, so each one of those needs to get marked. Every single square that you cut needs to be marked. Now, let me show you how easy it is to put this together, because you're on the way to getting your scarf all stitched together. So I've got 1, 2, just 3 pieces here that are all marked and ready to go. Actually, it's going to go like that. So we're going to start with this light colored one. And this is where you make use of your cutting mat. So I'm going to just slide this down just for a minute and then slide it back up. Because can you see what I'm doing there? I'm lining it up right on my grid line. I'd love to know in the chat, and I will check all your comments later, if anybody here has ever seen a scarf like this or made a scarf like this. I had a friend who was wearing one that she purchased in a boutique shop, and I fell in love with it and was like, ooh, I can make that. So hers was mixed and matched with all kinds of different pieces, but I really like the two-tone look. So lay that on so it matches at the points. I'm going to move that up now. And then simply take your next piece, fold it in half. And again, if it's cut perfectly square, it should match up on all the raw edges. If it doesn't, we don't worry about it. But there we go. You can see mine is pretty close. It is very wiggly and squiggly. You can see now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the next point with this folded in half with that same diagonal line. I want the tip of my first piece to be touching the fold of my second piece, and I'm simply going to flip this open. And I'm going to match up the lines. Again, it's a little tricky because I got a camera in between me and this, but can you see how perfectly that is matched up? Now, it's tempting to want to lay a whole bunch of them out and then pin them together. I highly recommend that you do one at a time. So let's talk about pins. You know me, I love to share my favorite tips with you. And when it comes to pins, if I could open my drawer and pull out what I have, you would probably wonder why I have so many. But there's a pin for every purpose. And one of my favorite pins is a ballpoint pin. And a lot of people I find are not familiar with these. When you purchase them, it will actually say ballpoint on the package. The same way that we use a ballpoint needle, or really what we're going to use is a stretch needle, which is a semi-ballpoint, but the same way we use specialized needles for stitching knits, that is the same principle we need to follow for pinning knits. So I always pin my knits with a ballpoint needle. Why is that? Because it will not damage the fabric. You will not poke a hole that is too sharp, too big, or damaging that knit. So we're going to pin one right on the center there, and then I'm going to pin one on each edge. Okay, so I would continue on. I'll do just one more here. Again, I would move that up so that that is right there on my diagonal point there. Fold my next square in half. Match up the point with the grid. Match up the fold with the previous point. Easy peasy. Unfold it. Put a pin in the center. You could put more pins in if you want to, but you're going to be taking them out as you stitch. So, all right, we're going to put that pin there. We're going to put that pin there. And once we have all of those pinned, we're simply going to scoop it up like this very gently. And then we're going to take it over to the machine to stitch it. All right, so now I've got to switch from my cutting mat to my machine. And while I do that, I've got a little video for you to watch. Should only take a couple minutes, but if we get that tips video up there going, then you can watch that. It's got some of my favorite scarf tips while I go ahead and get the machine in place for you. All right. All right, I'm coming back and you should be able to see the machine here in just a minute. So I am using a very, very basic machine today. Very basic. Let's see, you should be able to see that. And all I need to do is set it up for either a long straight stitch or a zigzag stitch. If I use a long straight stitch, it's going to put a little bit of give, a little bit of stretch into that. And I'm going to go ahead and just test my stitch. So I'm going to use a stitch length of 3. And I'm going to actually use my center needle position here. Again, I'm just using a very basic mechanical machine. Let's see here. I got to get set on straight stitch. So I'll do just oh, let's see. I'm on a zigzag. Let's get that a little bit longer. Get that straight. There we go. Just like that. All I need to do is stitch right on that line. So I'm going to go ahead and just see, is that going to give me a little bit of give? As long as that stretches a little bit, you're good to go. But feel free, if you're giving this to somebody who you think is a little heavy-handed when they're getting their accessories tied on, or you may want to consider using just a narrow zigzag instead of that. But for speed, we're going to use the simple straight stitch today. All right, so if you remember, I said once you've got those all marked, you're going to go ahead and stack them. So you're just piling that all up. I see Lisa has a question. Is this all done on a sewing machine? This one is all done on a sewing machine, yes. So you know what? I don't think I showed you a couple of pictures of my serger options, but I do have some serger scarf options, and one of my favorite ways to actually hem a scarf is to use the serger. I'm going to save that for another day. I am putting together a program for you that is going to be all about the rolled hem, all the ins and outs of using a rolled hem on your serger. So we will do a serger style scarf when we do that. All right, let me get just a little sip of water here to clear my throat. Hopefully you can see that machine okay. You are very welcome, Lisa. Yeah, Jet Lou says she really gets to sew chiffon since the little girl. Well, I love making chiffon scarves for myself. All right, another supply that you may find very handy. StayPerfect brand, which is the beautiful line of stabilizers from Sewing Machines Plus, makes one called SewNWash. We use this for lace making. We use it for embroidery in particular. However, I love using pieces of this to stabilize my stitching when I'm starting on a tricky spot. So imagine that. We have to start stitching on that point and then continue stitching. So I'm going to just slip a little piece of the StayPerfect SewNWash underneath there. Again, that can be completely dissolved when I wash the scarf, which I am going to wash it. I did wash my sample one to get all those markings out, but that's going to allow me to get that lined up. And I'm using actually the needle position is over there. Let me see if I can get that to go on the opposite side. All right, now I've got it. Let's see. For some reason, I am on the wrong stitch. Okay, can you tell I don't use a mechanical machine very often? Yeah, I'm kind of spoiled by my computerized machine, but it works. It works on a mechanical machine. You don't need anything fancy. So I want to start right about on that point. I'm going to start just a couple stitches in. I'm going to take a couple stitches forward, and then I'm going to back stitch. So I'm going to back stitch just to where that stabilizer starts, and then go forward. If I tried to do that without this piece of stabilizer in place, I would be in big trouble, because there's no way, I don't care how wonderful your machine is, there's no way that that little skinny piece of fabric is not going to get taken in to the bobbin case. We don't want that to happen. The rest of the time, the fabric's stable enough because we're started here, and I will show you that end when we get there. So I'm just going to go all the way down, stitching as close to that line as I can. This is where I like to grab my stiletto just to keep that point down as it's feeding underneath the foot. You may need to adjust that a little bit. Okay, we want to take the pins out as we go. Never sew over those pins. And we're just going to keep going until we get to the end. So this is where, you maybe listen to a book on tape, or listen to a replay of Sewing Machines Plus. Keep that up on the table so you don't have drag. And we're just going to continue all the way along. Now, again, you want to make sure that you take out that center pin as you go. Never, ever, ever be tempted to stitch over pins. I don't care who you've seen do it. I don't care who you've heard say it. You never stitch over a pin. It's not good for your needle. It's not good for your machine. It's not good for your fabric, and it's not good for you if that pin were to get hit by the needle and break. So the only thing you're going to need to be cautious about is that that point that's underneath stays nice and smooth and flat. This is really something that is very, very easy to make. Pretty quick too. Very low cost fabric wise. Don't let that stretch out as you're going along. Just keep it going nice. Again, remember, if you're using a straight stitch, you want to use at least a stitch length of 3.0. So standard stitch length is usually around 2.2 to 2.5. 3.0 gives a little bit more give to the stitch. Also helps you sew a little bit faster. You don't want to go much longer than that because you don't want a basting stitch. You want it to secure those layers together. All right. Let's see how we're doing on time. We're doing okay. So I'm going to go ahead and keep sewing this. Again, if you have questions, there's something you think I missed, I'm going to kind of glance at my instructions here while I'm straightening this out. Don't think I missed anything on there. And again, you know, you could consider using scraps of fabric. You could consider garments that are no longer perfect. You do want to look for a jersey knit because jersey knits have more flow than an interlock knit or any type of a double knit. They're a lot softer. That is one of the things that makes them just a little trickier to use because they get kind of curly sometimes. So just know that that's the nature of the beast. It will sometimes curl up a little bit. And I will tell you that my finished scarf that you already saw, I simply threw that in the wash in a lingerie bag. I'm a big fan of using lingerie bags for small items, things that kind of get lost in the wash, things that get shuffled around. I'm actually thinking I might try this even with a serpentine stitch one day and see how that goes. If you do have a little bit of difficulty, let me finish what I was saying. So laundering, I put it in the lingerie bag and then I threw it in the dryer on a just, you know, delicate heat in that same lingerie bag. Got some of it dried and then just draped it over a hanger and let it dry the rest of the way. So you don't have to iron it. You don't have to, you know, no muss, no fuss. This is a great scarf for traveling. It's a knit, so it can kind of be bundled up, and once it's unraveled, it kind of straightens itself out. You can also, you know, dampen it just a little bit with a little mist of water if it does get a few wrinkles. But very easy to care for. Very, very easy. So yeah, if you have, for whatever reason, a little bit of an issue with your machine stitching this, then you could consider taking that SewNWash, cutting narrow strips, and simply placing that against the fabric as you're stitching it. Now, I would probably be likely to put it on the wrong side so that I could still see my markings. But depending on how dark your markings are, you may be able to see through that piece. But it's a great stabilizer for all kinds of things. Buttonholes, you know, even if you don't have an embroidery machine and you don't think you're going to use it for embroidery, consider getting some of the SewNWash for your sewing practices. Decorative stitches that you do on delicate fabrics. Like I said, buttonholes, stitching on fabrics that stretch. How many of you remember back in the day when we had absolutely none of these great products and we had to resort to, dare I date myself by saying, adding machine tape or typing paper. We used all those kinds of things, tissue paper to sew through because it was the only type of stabilizers we had available to us. Today, we have everything and anything we need. I'm also a big fan of stocking up on those things. I'm known to be a midnight stitcher. If you're a midnight stitcher and you're with me, let me know. If you're a early morning stitcher, we both have the same issues. What happens is we don't have what we need when we need it. So I like to say, buy it when you see it and you have it when you need it, or especially those basic things that we're going to use on a regular basis. All right, I only have one more to go. So you can see this, even though I'm having to stitch a little bit kind of tedious here because of the delicacy of this, it still doesn't take very long to get done. If you miss that corner a little bit, no worries. Go ahead and stitch all the way to the end. Obviously, you can pick whatever color thread you want. You can pick one or the other of the one that you have there. I'm going to sweep this around and grab that piece that I started with. Cut off a piece of that because I cannot backstitch without this somewhat stabilized. So if you don't have the SewNWash, then, by all means use another piece of stabilizer or something that you can readily tear away from there. I want to be able to backstitch this so it's all finished. All right. Ha ha ha. We are almost done with the show, and I am done with my scarf. So I would go ahead and I would trim the excess of this. Just trim that away. Of course, clip my thread very close. And then I would just be able to just dip this in warm water, and all of the rest of that stabilizer would go away. All right, I'm going to switch back to the regular camera. I'm going to take any questions you might have and see what you're thinking. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. Let me know if you like the project, if you think you might do it yourself, and if you have any questions. Whew, all right. Good, Janice. I'm glad you were able to stay with us. April's a late night stitcher. Yep, Alexandria, no time at all. All I have to do is take the pins out of this. I've got the same scarf that I've got here. Bring it close for you again so that you can see. I could tie this. I could drape it. I could loop it. I could do all kinds of fun things. It's just a great color accent, a great way to tie a color scheme together, have a little fun, make something yourself, and make it beautiful. All right, let me see if there's any more questions. The fabric won't work. The fabric don't, I'm not sure, Nilda, what you're saying. So Nancy loves the idea of making the scarf. And you haven't stitched on knits in years. Oh, there's so many beautiful knits out there. And again, if your fabric doesn't look the same on the wrong side, don't worry about it. That will just add to the character and add to the look. And Ann Jenkins is asking, what exact material did I use? I used a lightweight jersey knit, and it's a polyester and rayon blend. So rayons tend to be the softest knits that you'll find. They're very, very, very soft. Lisa, fleece, great idea. Yes, you could definitely use fleece. I would go for the lighter weight. Remember, you want some drape to this. Part of what adds that character is those points just kind of dangling. Yep, Linda's got a great idea. Fuzzy fake fur or fleece. Anne made an infinity scarf years ago. Infinity scarves are still one of my favorite styles to wear and make. And you'll see a little bit of that when we actually do the serger session, and I show you how I hem mine with the serger. Yeah, thank you, Joanne. I'm glad you think it's pretty. Nana, thank you. Very easy, very fun, and a great last minute gift. All right, I think we're ready to wrap up and say goodbye for today. Again, love spending time with all of you. I will put together a little bit of a resource list for this that will give you some extra links to some projects. And if you're on my email list, you know you'll get it in your inbox on Sunday morning. So if you're not already on my email list, please visit me at letsgosew.com and consider signing up. I have lots of things on my website, but I send out something every weekend that I think is of value to sewing enthusiast, embroidery enthusiast, serger enthusiast, and general crafters and creators. I love you all. Thank you for all your great comments. Take advantage of that special. I will be happy to autograph that for you. And I will see you next year in January. I do have another show myself on my YouTube channel. Let's Go Sew with Joanne Banko is where you'll find me on my YouTube channel. And I have a show Monday, December 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be recapping the whole year, and I will be taking your questions. So I wish you a very, very beautiful Christmas and a very happy New Year. Love you all. Happy sewing, and I wish you a world full of pretty stitches. Bye-bye.